This video is dedicated to the 65th anniversary of the construction of the anti-fascist protective wall, also known as the Berlin Wall. To provide some historical context, what I am going to read here was written by the Party of Labor of Austria in their newspaper, known as the Zeitung der Arbeit, or Newspaper of Labor. All credit is to be directed at them, as well as all praise. All I did was narration. 65 years since the Berlin Wall was built, the GDR and the Cold War. August 13th, 2026. 65 years since the Berlin Wall was built, the GDR and the Cold War. Berlin. 65 years ago today, the Berlin Wall was erected. The mainstream media and various experts are using this as an opportunity for their anti-communist propaganda war and massive historical revisionism. Dictatorship, totalitarian, unjust regime, evil, and whatever else the GDR was. Terror was perpetrated, and the wall, along with the Stasi, was the epitome of it. Not a word about the origins, the achievements of the German Democratic Republic, or even the context of the wall's construction. Not even figures and facts about border security, because that would refute the myths and lies. The GDR as an answer to fascism. The German Democratic Republic was founded on October 7th, 1949. It existed for 4 decades as a socialist state on German soil before collapsing in 1990 as a result of the counter-revolution.
The founding of the GDR was a response to the experiences and political conditions of its time. German fascism, acting in the interests of monopoly and finance capital, had crushed the organized labor movement, eliminated bourgeois democratic structures, and established an open dictatorship with a comprehensive system of terror. At the same time, fascist Germany unleashed the Second Imperialist World War. The peoples of the Soviet Union and the Red Army, as well as the political and military leadership of the USSR, were crucial in defeating fascism. Together with anti-fascist resistance groups and partisans in numerous European countries, they contributed to the defeat of fascism at enormous cost. Against this historical backdrop, the GDR was founded with the aim of achieving a fundamental break with fascism and capitalism and building a socialist society. Achievements of the GDR and the Cold War. The GDR was thus the socialist and anti-fascist response to the fact that capitalism had used the working class en masse as cannon fodder and reduced many countries to rubble. Within less than 30 years, international monopoly and finance capital had, for the second time, instigated a major slaughter among nations, leaving millions dead and wounded in the struggle for maximum profits.
In the GDR, a socialist society was successfully built for 4 decades. Peace, social security, equality, and justice, no unemployment or homelessness, nationalized industry, banks, and trade, and free healthcare and education. Gender equality was also greater than in West Germany, and homosexuals enjoyed better legal status. As the Party of Labor stated in a declaration, the GDR was a milestone in the world revolutionary process. These facts and other achievements posed and still pose a threat to the monopolies and their political puppets in the bourgeois parties. Thus, the proclamation of the construction of socialism led to intensified anti-communist and counter-revolutionary activities by West Germany, the EEC, NATO, and U.S. imperialism. The Party of Labor maintains the GDR could never develop under normal conditions. Under the conditions of the Cold War, it stood on the front lines. It had to shoulder enormous expenses for the security of the state and its inhabitants. It was confronted with constant hostile propaganda and espionage, a technology embargo, sabotage, and the problem of its currency's non-convertibility on the world market.
The Cold War manifested itself with particular intensity in the GDR. It was considered the foremost outpost of European socialism, a situation further exacerbated by the unique location of West Berlin, which was surrounded by the GDR. Infiltration by the West, target of destruction. Thus, the GDR faced infiltration by the West, on which the imperialist states and alliances pinned their hopes that a counter-revolution in the GDR, which played a key role in the Council for Mutual Economic Assistance, would trigger a snowball effect in other states. There was massive intelligence activity in 1950s Berlin, with reports of some 80 different secret and intelligence services involved.
The aim was to destroy the GDR and recruit informants and collaborators to sabotage it from within. As Tibor Zenker observes, socialism is not a fool's paradise where everyone can do whatever they please. This kind of individualism has nothing to do with freedom. The socialist revolution is not a magic trick that solves all the world's and humanity's problems in the blink of an eye. It only creates the possibility, the prerequisite for it.
This, coupled with necessary economic reforms, and, above all, Western propaganda and the targeted recruitment of skilled workers, led some GDR residents to leave the country via Berlin. At the same time, economic problems, shortages of raw materials, and the population's dissatisfied expectations created further difficulties. The GDR was thus threatened by Western aggression and multiple crises, which led to the start of construction of the Berlin Wall on August 13, 1961. This wall formed the basis for the GDR's economic survival and the preservation of peace. Even John F. Kennedy acknowledged the latter. The wall also contributed to the population's increased commitment to building socialism in the GDR. Now, it was certainly not the goal of the SED leadership to erect a wall. It was a consequence of the prevailing circumstances and necessary for defending the GDR's existence until 1989. It secured the power of the workers and farmers and the many advances achieved during this period. The myth of the wall deaths, but Frontex is okay. Alongside the myths mentioned above, the border regime and the so-called wall deaths are among the most popular tools of false anti-communist historiography concerning the GDR. Between 1961 and 1989, 140 people died, of whom only 101 were refugees who were shot, killed in accidents, or took their own lives while trying to cross the border fortifications. No one talks about the East German border guards who secured peace at the inner German border for over 28 years and were murdered by counter-revolutionaries and saboteurs. On the contrary, they are lumped together with the number of deaths at the Berlin Wall, thus distorting the figures. For example, in 1 year, 3.6 million people fell victim to border guards. If we compare this with the recent border crossings in Ceuta, we can also record 140 deaths in a single day. But the EU doesn't seem to be a state based on injustice and doesn't have a border regime that provokes widespread outrage. After all, it serves to defend our freedom.
This year alone, according to the Missing Migrants Project, 2,185 people have already died or gone missing in the Mediterranean. The number peaked at 5,143 in 2016. Frontex, acting as an alliance of banks and generals, performs its duty to protect the EU. In 15 years of border security in the Mediterranean, more than 38,500 people are dead or missing, largely because Frontex, together with the Libyan Coast Guard, literally kicks people off their dinghies, sinks their boats, and offers no assistance. Yet all this is no cause for outrage, no reason to condemn the excesses of capitalism, the wars, the climate crisis, or other consequences of the world's dominant economic system. No. Instead, all sorts of anti-communist fairy tales are being trotted out today, not only regarding East Germany, but the Soviet Union is also getting its comeuppance once again. Because only through lies and distraction can this system be portrayed as the superior alternative.